Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Utility Sports, and I'm so very excited to be covering another NBA video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about a specific free agent, and as you can see from the title, thumbnail, and of course the opening graphic here, we're talking Jalen Brunson today. And I myself am a Dallas Mavericks fan, so we're going to talk about what I expect from Jalen Brunson. As many of you know, he's headed toward NBA free agency, and he has a very unique situation that I think is well worth talking about in an entire video dedicated just to Jalen Brunson. If you would like to see more free agency videos, go ahead and comment right now and let me know which player maybe you would like to see a free agency video on. I am planning on doing a Zach LaVine one as well, because I think his free agency is, again, very interesting, simply because of the nature of his tenure in Chicago and the current outlook of that franchise with the age of some of their veterans and the fact that they have not won a playoff series since acquiring him from Jimmy Butler. So I will plan on recording a Zach LaVine one. Let me know if there's any other free agents you'd like to see. I know Chris Boucher is really popular with the Toronto Raptors. But back to Brunson here. And if you guys are new to the channel, hit that like button, subscribe. And you can see I have him titled here as the future New York Knicks. So we're going to talk about exactly what I expect from Brunson, from the New York Knicks, and if the Dallas Mavericks are going to maybe have a shot in this race yet, or if another team could get involved that would be probably titled as a dark horse right now. So for the video preview, we'll talk about Jalen Brunson's past season, how he performed, what I saw from him as a Mavericks fan myself, then his pending free agency, the Knicks displaying interest in Brunson in a variety of ways, then they make a big time move. My prediction ultimately on Brunson: does he stay? Does he go? Where does he go? And then my feeling as a Mavs fan on the situation and ultimately what I expect to happen. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the content. Now, Brunson this past season had a phenomenal year. In fact, I would call it a career year for Jalen Brunson, someone who found a ton of success at the collegiate level. Everyone knows that. But at the NBA level, this was his coming out party. The change of a head coach from Rick Carlisle to Jason Kidd really validated Jalen Brunson's role on this Mavericks roster, specifically post Kristaps Porzingis trade, when he became the clear number 2 option offensively for a Mavs team that was kind of lackluster to start the year offensively. And I think Brunson's resurgence back into a bigger role was really good for Dallas. And I also think Luka's play in the second half was just much better than it was. Two key contributing factors to their postseason success and just the overall regular season success, finishing as a top 4 seed in the Western Conference. And as you can see here, Brunson, highly efficient from the field. In fact, he actually went downward in terms of three-point percentage. Shot 40% a year ago from 3, down to 37%, but you can clearly see that it did not impact his overall efficiency. He scores inside the arc at such a good rate, and it's honestly surprising for a player his size, only about 6'1". That was really the big knock on him, why he was a second-round selection, but he overcomes that with great footwork, great pace of play. He goes at his own pace, and he's so nifty around the paint, specifically when he gets matchup switches where you're facing a center. Jalen Brunson's going to carve those matchups up. He lives in the mid-range area. He's got a great pull-up game. He loves the left elbow specifically. And as a left-handed player, I think had teams scouted him a little bit better, they probably would realize there's some real deficiency with him going to his right hand. I do not think he's a flawless player by any means, but it is very difficult to stay in front of a guy who is so good with his footwork, his ability to go up and under. You don't typically see a 6'1" guard posting players up. Jalen Brunson has that to him. We saw that against the Phoenix Sun series, where he dominated Chris Paul for the back half of that series. That's not an understatement. Jalen Brunson has arrived. His postseason play was even better than his regular season play, specifically when Luka Doncic was out. And the fact that he played so well opened the eyes to suitors interested in him. I think a lot of people before the season thought maybe he'll get $15 to $16 million a year if he plays well this year. That number went up a lot this playoffs, because he is someone who, with Luka Doncic out of the game, carried the Dallas Mavericks, including a 41-point performance against the Utah Jazz in round 1, and really willed Dallas to a bunch of wins that they probably wouldn't have gotten without him on the roster. And now let's go ahead and transition into free agency. And I think there's 4 teams that are big-time suitors for Jalen Brunson this year, and I think one of them is going to be very surprising. But first of all, let's talk about why 4 teams should be interested in him. I think more teams will be interested, but I'm talking about the top 4 suitors here. First of all, he's one of the best free agent guards. I already mentioned Zach LaVine in this video. I think Jalen Brunson's up there in terms of the available unrestricted free agent guards that are hitting the market this year. He's at the very top, and he's coming off a career year where he's going to look to cash in. Remember, this is a second round pick. He was not playing on some rich rookie deal making $40 million his first 4 years in the league. In fact, his career earnings are really low for the level of play he's been at since coming into the league, because as a second round pick, his contract was not one that is super attractive to a lot of players and is not one that he would ever play on again, honestly. But Brunson, now at this point of his career, looking to cash in, and because of the way his contract was structured when he first got drafted by the Dallas Mavericks, he is now an unrestricted free agent, which is really rare to see for a player who, by the way, he's still only 25 years old, could make some serious impact for some other team. So the team's interested, Dallas. The Mavericks are going to be right at the forefront trying to keep him. Mark Cuban has showed the intentions to keep him around, saying we can pay him more than anybody. We think he wants to be here, which makes it sound like it should be a done deal, right? But I don't think it is. I think there's going to be 3 other teams that make serious pushes for Jalen Brunson, starting with the New York Knicks. I think the Knicks are in prime position. They've been hunting for their point guard for quite some time. And I remember everyone in round 1, when they went to the Mavs Jazz game, everyone said, oh, the Knicks are starting to court Donovan Mitchell already. Their executives are there watching Donovan Mitchell. And I told everybody then, there's a video on the channel where I talk about this in it. I'll have to try and find the link for that for you guys. But in that, I said that the Knicks were there to watch Jalen Brunson. I really firmly believe that. I thought they were all in on Brunson because he was the free agent this offseason. And by the way, he played pretty well in that game as well. And then the Detroit Pistons, they've been linked to Brunson throughout this season as well. I think, you know, the fit between Brunson and Doncic probably makes him a really attractive fit next to Cade Cunningham. Of course, Cunningham draws so many comparisons to Luka. He's not the level of player Luka is, but the style is fairly similar. A bigger guard who goes at his own pace, can read the entire floor, and is definitely someone who I think is going to take a huge step in year 2. And the Pistons would be a lot better adding Jalen Brunson. But ultimately, unless they're giving him a max, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to get the job done there. And then Indiana. And Indiana's the surprise one on here that I know a lot of people are going to be confused about. And I'm kind of shaky on it, but I still think they're going to be a suitor and at least try to get him. Because first of all, Rick Carlisle was his coach back in Dallas. Now, he did fall out of favor with Rick Carlisle at certain points. And I don't think Carlisle really utilized him as well as he could, which would maybe turn Brunson off to Indiana as an option. But for Indiana's perspective, it does make a lot of sense having a player that your coach has formerly coached and done fairly well with. And then the fact that Malcolm Brogdon is likely going to get traded, he'll at least be on the trade block. You bring Brunson in, you put him next to Tyrese Halliburton, who again is a lengthy, tall guard. You have an intriguing backcourt duo with those two. You bring in more assets for Brogdon, and maybe this is an accelerated rebuild there in Indiana, something they would love to accomplish there for the Pacers. But ultimately for me, it really becomes down to the top 2 teams there between the Dallas Mavericks and the New York Knicks vying for Jalen Brunson going forward. And the Knicks made a headline move to try and compete at an even higher level. The Knicks hire Rick Brunson, father of Jalen Brunson, to their staff. He was formerly with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Of course, he had played in the NBA. And I think the writing's on the wall here. When the Knicks go out, they scout him in a game in the playoffs. They send all their top executives there. It's very notable and prominent that they're right there close to the court. And then they go and hire his father. This seems like a very college-esque type of thing to do, where not only are we going to take care of you, but we're also going to take care of your family type of move. And I think the Knicks right now are positioning themselves in a way where they are trying to become the most attractive destination to Jalen Brunson. And that's tough to do because you do have to compete with Dallas, a team where, you know, they trusted him. They drafted him with their second-round pick a few years back. They put the ball in his hands in playoff games, and they've really helped develop him into the player he is now. But the Knicks now have his father there. They also have a situation where you could look at a big market, and he's going to get paid, be close to his dad. I mean, it's a pretty good situation, if you ask me, going to the New York Knicks. So who do I think is going to land Jalen Brunson? Is it going to be Dallas? Is it going to be New York? And I think, again, the writing's on the wall here. he's going to go to the New York Knicks. I ultimately think that the Knicks are so well positioned to land him. And this is the guy they want. I think, they've really shown their intentions with all of the moves they made, with all their trips out to Dallas to watch Brunson. They've been very aggressive in the pursuit of a point guard, and they are finally going to get it. It'll be the third left-handed player in their starting lineup with RJ Barrett and also Julius Randle, which is awesome to see. And for Dallas, you have to ask yourself now, is there potential here where we get rights to Mitchell Robinson in a sign and trade? Can we swing something like that and still improve our roster? And I think there's some potential there to an outcome where Mitchell Robinson gets signed and traded back to Dallas in a deal where Brunson gets sent to the New York Knicks. And you do open up some money that way. And you also address your center position, which is a big need here for Dallas, of course. And for the Knicks perspective, you're getting your point guard, and it comes at a pretty hefty price tag. My expectation is opening day of free agency. I will be live when it happens on the channel. He's going to sign a 4-year, $100 million deal with the New York Knicks. That $100 million mark is going to be the tipping point here. I think the Mavericks are probably going to be in a range of around 4 years, 92, or maybe 5 years, 100, which again, pretty nice payday there. 20 to $23 million a year. Not bad for a second round pick by any means. But New York's going to give him that $25 million a year. They're going to give him the $100 million guaranteed. And they're going to say, Brunson, we want you to come play for us in New York. Come be our starting point guard. You're the guy we want to build around. Let's make it work here. And the Knicks do have ways to open up cap space as well. If they move off of a guy like Fournier or Alec Burks or Nerlens Noel, they've got some options there. So the Knicks, I think, are going to ultimately land Jalen Brunson. I think it's going to happen. I just have this innate feeling that Jalen Brunson, with everything that's gone on, the Knicks are going to pursue him so hard. The Mavs are going to want to keep him, but ultimately I think Brunson makes the decision to head out east and play in the Mecca, Madison Square Garden, as the starting point guard for the New York Knicks. And you also have to look at the opportunity here. Brunson, at best, is going to be a second option in Dallas. For New York, that's a little shakier. Maybe he could be the top guy there. They're going to put the ball in his hands probably more than anybody. Julius Randle, of course, we know how he likes to play as well. But this could really help Tom Thibodeau's offense with the Knicks. And I think Jalen Brunson, such a crafty, talented player who can score on all three levels, would be a massive get for New York. So then as a Mavs fan, what are my feelings on this situation? Are the Mavs in danger if this happens? Or what do I think here? And for me, ultimately as a Mavs fan, I'm okay with him leaving. I'm sad about it. I like watching Jalen Brunson play. He's one of those guys where you draft a player in the second round, he ends up becoming really good. And I think, second round was too low for him, clearly, just coming out of Villanova with all the collegiate success he had. I never understood that, why he would go that low. Just GMs forget that sometimes good players are good players. But ultimately, I'm sad to see him go, but I think as well that this is maybe the best Jalen Brunson's going to be. And it's a really good product. He's a really great player. I really do believe that. But I don't know if he's great enough to be your number two. And just given the fact that Dallas just moved off of Porzingis because they don't want to tie themselves to big contracts for not true stars, I don't know really how you go about bringing in Brunson on a 4-year, $100 million type of deal to match the New York Knicks offer. I just don't really think that's plausible or something that I would personally want to sign up for, specifically because his style is actually fairly similar to Luka Doncic's. And I know it doesn't sound like that should be a bad thing, but I think against the Warriors, they became predictable because both Luka and Brunson play at a slower pace. And I think the Mavericks, the team that ranked 30th in pace this past year, that gets almost zero transition baskets, would really be benefited by actually adding a little bit more speed, a little bit more dynamism, more pressure on the rim onto this roster, using the money that would go to Brunson to address the front court, maybe find a different dynamic guard that could fit, a la Zach LaVine. Not that that's going to happen, but I think it would be a phenomenal outcome. And I think ultimately here for Dallas, if you can find ways to improve this roster in other ways, even with the loss of Brunson, I think you'll be just fine because Luka Doncic is that good of a player. Luka would have won the series against the Jazz. Luka basically himself won the series against the Suns with the way they play. And the Mavs are at their best when the ball's in Luka's hands. And Brunson's good, but he doesn't necessarily move the needle as much when they're on the floor together. So ultimately for me, with the Dallas Mavericks, I think they're in a really great spot if they just let him go at a certain price point. Now, if they keep him, I don't think it's terrible either, but it's got to be at the right price. And for me, $25 million a year is a little rich for a guy of Jalen Brunson's caliber. Again, a very good player, but that's a lot of money to pay for a guard who's a little undersized, not super athletic or explosive, and kind of plays similar to your best player. It's just not the most intriguing thing for me at that price point again. So I'm not overly anxious about it. In fact, I would rather lose him at that price point than give him a max myself. That's just my personal opinion. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think, though, about Jalen Brunson, the Rick Brunson hire for the New York Knicks. Share your thoughts. Let me know what you think. Again, my prediction overall, 4 years, $100 million on day one of NBA free agency, heading out east to play in Madison Square Garden. Thanks again so much for watching, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.